And I'm glad that I get you right after all of that food and all of that dessert. So I'll try to keep you awake here, and I do appreciate your time and attention. Doug Wickman, VP of Marketing at Perdue Foodservice, and I've been in the protein business for almost 30 years now. And I've spent a lot of time with data and insights and creating cool new menuable concepts for a lot of the largest chains out there. I worked with Tyson Foods, Conagra Foods, and Perdue these last 10 years. So we've done a lot of really interesting things over time, and I'm going to share some of this journey with you because I think it's very relevant in trying to drive profit in our business today. There was a period of time when at Perdue we had to kind of rethink what we were going to do. We're a retail-focused company to a large degree, so we have a lot of consumer data, and the consumer trends were telling us some of the things that you heard earlier. No antibiotics ever chicken was becoming more popular in retail. Organic chicken was becoming more popular in retail. There was more of a concern about animal care, and we really had to think a lot about what we were going to do in the future. And as we spoke to our customers, we realized there was a lot of positive energy here. But when it came time to develop these products and put them into their system, how do you put something on the menu in these premium spaces? And how do you make it fit when maybe not the entire menu has a premium connection to it? I'm going to take you through some of that journey. And ultimately, Perdue always talks about we want to be the most trusted name in premium proteins, and trust is the pinnacle of all relationships, personal, professional, and nobody trusts big companies. They don't trust big agriculture. They think the people are always trying to pull one over on you to some degree. So in our business and trust, especially with product claims, I use third-party verifiers. I use the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I use them for our certified organic and these kind of things. And I'll show you some of those things that we do. We go the extra mile because when you buy this product and put it on your menu for all the consumers that come into your location, they need to know what's on your menu. They want that transparency. You need to know that you're getting what you paid for, and that's what we do. Our journey, I'm not going to go through everything on here because it's big, but it started back in 2007. We started researching all of these claims, and we moved our entire portfolio at Perdue to become all premium for that reason, that connection to consumers. But it's no antibiotics ever and all veggie-fed chicken. That's all we raise today. If an animal gets sick, we'll take care of it and treat the entire flock, but it won't go into the brands that you see up here. If it says no antibiotics ever on the label, it means that USDA helps control that, and we make sure that that happens. So we brought our organic, we upgraded our turkey line, and we brought in this powerful animal care that you may have seen, but I'm going to share some of that with you. But it's the consumer connection. It's their drive for it. When you look at retail, what we saw, this is IRI data. This is the scanner data. You go in, you buy chicken, they run it across the scanner. That data is collected everywhere that shares that data. The guys on the right in that little box, they don't share the data. So the number one, number two, number three guy in these premium attribute spaces, they're not sharing data. Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and Sprouts. And some of the other high-level adopters of premium. And these growth numbers, if I were to go back over the last 5 years, these top tiers of value, they've been growing in powerful double-digit spaces for years now. And it's why we're doing this in food service. Consumers are walking into a retail store with their own eyes and hands and picking up product that is either no antibiotics ever or organic and running it up to the front counter to get it scanned and leave. 30% of the category of chicken today is no antibiotics ever or organic, and it doesn't include the guys on the right. So does this belong in food service? Well, we know chefs. There's chefs in this room right now, and we know they've been doing things with premium, but what's been happening in food services? This is being adopted in quick service and, of course, other fast casual spaces, and, of course, hospitals, college, university. And the consumers are demanding this in places they go out and spend their food service dollar. So today, our product line in chicken is organic, no antibiotics ever, and we do have some products that might have traditional ingredients that are not clean label that would be in that Perdue no antibiotic ever space. So we have clean label on the top end, and then we'll go with traditional ingredients because there's some products you just can't make with traditional ingredients. Same thing with turkey. You can't make certain turkey to be sliced super thin without having some kind of a binder in it. So we're laser focused on premium. The number one advantage, the advantage is we can put this on the menu, and it offers an advantage because you're communicating something to the consumer that they want to know about. They want to know what's in their food. They want transparency. So all of those great claims, we're vertically integrated family farms with powerful animal care. Now I'm going to take you through two big areas of what would be considered, some kind of a really positive energy movement that we sense, not only in retail, now in food service in large degree because it's more widely available. One of it's going to be the animal care component. Now this can be monetized. When you talk about claims are a path to profit. And I'm going to take you through some examples on the menu of what people have done to make that happen. Animal care, but also the ingredients themselves, those different claims, and I'll kind of run through those just so you can dial in. And it's not just chicken. I worked in a premium beef company, no antibiotics, all veggie fed, but it's corn fed at the end, and all the wonderful things they did with no hormones. There's some really great beef products too, right? So it's claims. When we'll go through this, I'm going to share with you some things that don't belong in my category that make sense for adding more profit to an organization. Animal care does matter, though. Animal care is a top concern for consumers. It's grown on the menu. You see, humanely raised on the menu, 300% more than the prior year. This is a stat goes back to 2016. But consumers are concerned about the animal welfare of the animals that are in food production today, 77%. So it's a big deal. Does this belong on the menu? It's on the menu, clearly, but it's definitely something that belongs in your story, your food story, that you might layer that into your communication within your web space, right? As a company that's in this space, for the last 3 years, we've partnered with these animal advocates, people that we generally, as an industry, kind of shy away from. We feel like they're going to attack us. And they have attacked some of us, some of our peers, maybe some people in this room. But the animal advocates, when you really think about it, nobody wants to see an animal harmed in any way, shape, or form. And if you really think about how you really would prefer to raise an animal and you sit down and talk to the animal advocacy groups, you'd realize you have a lot more in common than you have differences. And so we take that into consideration when we think about raising these animals, but I have to go beyond that. I have to think about what you think as customers. I have to think about the consumers. I have to think about the farmers. These are the folks that are taking care of these animals on a daily basis. And then the chickens themselves. We actually hire people to study their behavior when they get exposed to certain things, enrichments and windows and such. So I can't just deal with animal advocacy. I've got to think more holistically about it. And when you do it right, there's a tremendous consumer response. Has anybody in this room heard of the class of 2024? That's interesting. The class of 2024 is something that came into existence probably 2 years ago. It currently is yet to be really powerfully branded, but there's about 16 animal advocacy groups. And out of those, there's 9 of them that got together and agreed on certain components that they would say, hey, if you do this, you're raising chicken in a very positive way. To get those entities together in a room to agree on something is a big deal. And, but it's on these 5 key elements. Enrichments are things that are really activity-based. You want windows so the chickens have natural light? That's a part of it. Ramps so they can play on these things and do the things they do. Outdoor access. Space, more space for chickens. Everybody thinks that's a good thing, right? Controlled atmosphere stunning where you might render the animal asleep before harvest. They like specialty slow growth breeds and then third-party verification, right? We do this too. This is a part of our desire for long-term, animal welfare. So we're very aligned to this, but the class of 2024 will you've got to see these names if you can't read them up. Global Animal Partnership, GAP, that's who does the certification for animal welfare for Whole Foods today, right? The Humane Society of the U.S., they're one of the big high-energy folks out there that are doing a lot of the news channels and such. These are big names in this space. So when they get together and say, hey, we're going to do this, they went out and started to talk to people in food service and say, what do you think about this? Will you guys commit to buying animals that are raised this way? This is just a portion of the brands that have committed. It's on their website. But it's the portion of the brands that have committed. These are the commercial-facing brands because there's a page I'm going to show you. I just want you to absorb some of these names. Think about the amount of chicken that these guys buy. It's powerful, right? It's going to effectively change the way animals are raised and the way people are buying chicken, because you have to change for such a huge volume, right? And here is the non-commercial side. All the big names in contract management are on this board. So, as a company, I'm moving this way, and I'm doing some things, but they're communicating this to the world, to their investors, to their consumers that are going into their dining locations all across the country. And this is a claim. It is not fake, it's not puffery, it's a real deal. It's controlled and third-party verified, right? So when you think about animal care, it is one of the claims. It's probably one of the more technical claims I'll talk about here today. But it put us in a very positive position globally. The business benchmark on farm animal welfare has ranked us in the top 15% globally in animal care. But what do you need to be concerned about? What are the risks of not having a position on animal welfare? I think you just need to do some research and be prepared for that, and you know you have places to go to find products that fit in animal care space. But this is one area that every major restaurant chain, because I do all the national account work for data, excuse me, and all those ideations that we talked about. I've done more presentations on animal care these last 2 years than I've ever thought I would in my career. It's a top hot topic and should be a consideration for us. But it's also an opportunity to communicate. Let's talk about the other ingredient components here. Now we're talking about the food side of things, but the transparency that I mentioned. 94% of consumers want more transparency in the food that they're eating in restaurants. They want to know what's in their food. Product claims, organic, these other things are great little powerful elements to talk about product quality of your ingredients, but that is a huge indicator of perfect transparency that consumers are looking for. And they're willing to grant you more funds, more money for this. It can be monetized transparency. One easy one, and I put this one up here, and I think people think it's kind of funny to see this, but our wonderful government and all of its wisdom did not pass country of origin labeling. And by not doing so, you can bring Chinese chicken into this country, process it in this country, and it will say product of the U.S. on there. Consumers don't like that. They don't like that. And so what we did as a company is we put on every label, and it's governed by the USDA, it's hatched, raised, and harvested in the USDA. This is really a USA product. And we make sure that we do that, but that is something to be concerned about because it got quite a bit of press this last year. No antibiotics ever. There's some clarity issues. If you go to PerdueFoodservice.com, we have a no antibiotics, which means understand no antibiotics, sheet that shows you the different ways people are not being transparent in this space. If you were to say the way we like to talk about it, it's no antibiotics ever. Not in the egg, not in the hatchery, not in the feed. The most definitive way that you can speak about it. But if you say raised without antibiotics, does that mean you used it in the egg? Probably. And there's all sorts of ways that people can play with that terminology, so understand what you're buying first. But this is a very powerful emotional thing. Consumers have a concern that we're creating superbugs and these things. I don't worry about that science of it. It's much like Truett Cathy said when they asked why Chick-fil-A was taking antibiotics out of their chicken over time. It should be done next year, by the way. He said, my consumers that come into my store have, my guests have a concern about it. So I have a concern about it. So I'm getting rid of it. That's all I need to know. So that was a really interesting way to think about it. So no antibiotics ever is one of those great claims. There is another group of people that are very concerned about antibiotics, and these are consumer groups, and it's a chain reaction report from the Friends of Earth. These different consumer groups got together. They're grading these big, powerful brands, and you recognize them all, and you can see the A levels on the upper right, and then all the way down to the Fs for people that do not have a statement about antibiotic use in their corporate website and their product purchasing. So you can communicate that we're going to do this someday, and you'll get a slightly higher grade, but then you start doing it. Look at the top two guys, the darlings of the industry for premium food ingredients, Chipotle and Panera Bread, right? So we can do things with that product. People are looking for that. Consumers are highly energized around antibiotics. It's a part of that 30% of all those retail dollars, right? All vegetarian feed. On the left side, we feed them corn, soybeans, herbs, some natural probiotics that they get. On the right-hand side, we don't feed them animal byproducts. It's a cleaner feed formula, right? No poultry meal, blood meal, feather meal. Yes, those are ingredients in conventionally raised chicken every day of their life. You can taste the difference. You can smell the difference in the bag when you open it up, and I urge you to try that. It's very enlightening and maybe slightly disturbing. But if you were to think about this, depending on your consumer base, Arabs do not like to eat animals that eat other animals. And our East Indians don't like to be eating cow. Animal byproducts are any animal. It doesn't matter. It's whatever's cheapest and to deliver cheap protein in conventional feed formulas. So you don't have proper cultural sensitivities if you're buying a traditional feed ingredient. I do have people tell me all the time, but chickens, they're not vegetarians. You know, they root around, they eat bugs and stuff. And I say, yeah, well, we let them eat bugs when they go outside and do the things they do, but we sure aren't force feeding them animal byproducts anymore. That's not going to happen. But it does have a powerful taste impact. This is something we can talk about. It's a very powerful quality of ingredient. We do have some halal certified, depending on if you have a need to prove that you have. This is in our fresh product line, and it's another great thing to put out there for certain consumer bases. Clean label's easy to understand. Everybody gets it, right? So clean label, understandable, pantry-oriented ingredients, you know, sea salt and bread, components of flour and salt, etc., right? So easy to understand. And organic is our top tier of value, but that's a non-GMO product. So the grain that it eats is non-genetically modified, which makes it more expensive. Has to be proven by the USDA. We DNA test the stuff to make sure that it is what they say it's going to be. We've caught people trying to sell us conventional feed, but I do that because you need to know that if you get organic from me, it's the right stuff. Free range does not mean that it's organic, but if it's organic, you're guaranteed that it's free range. It's a part of the protocol. It's also all veggie fed and no antibiotics ever, right? So a lot of powerful claims, all verified by these third-party folks. So now, what are we going to do with this? You know, so we got to turn this into something. We're going to turn it into some money. What we found over time, and the chefs have known this for some time, is that you know, you can take premium ingredients, make a better product, talk about prime beef in your steaks, do things a little bit differently, call out the special fish species or how it was caught, and you can have a higher dollar ring, right? And the journey is a relatively short one here, but if you were to look at a restaurant and I was an operator for a while, the environment is not perfect. It's a great industry. Love this industry. Been in it for way too long. But you can tell by my hair. I'm only 30 years old. But if you were to take a look at the escalating costs in our space, your rent is not getting any cheaper. Your wages that you pay your staff ain't getting any cheaper. In some cases, it's being mandated that you pay a lot more. And when you think about how difficult this is, don't start slitting your wrists just yet, right? We can actually do something about it. But you're not going to make up the extra money to pay for these things by getting 2 cents a pound off on a box of chicken. You're going to have to sell more for more money. And that's the critical thinking that we need when we craft this story and try to turn claims into profit. So thinking about the operator space, they would probably be better off elevating the plate instead of trying to find a cheaper commodity-oriented purchase. And I'll show that. So we want to drive traffic, we got to differentiate, give a person some reasons to sit their butt in my store instead of across the street and work towards this. But these claims, they're around. It's not necessarily, the stuff I gave you is to kind of level set your head on what's going on in my category. But it exists in beef. It exists. There's versions of it in seafood. There's organic produce, and there's specialty components of the produce category in general, right? The upsell idea to make more money on a claim is most easily understood. Does anybody in this room drink? Okay, there's 3 of you that drink. What is this? This isn't right, you liars. I saw you last night. So we all drink a little bit, fine, maybe a lot. But when you go from a regular beer to a craft beer, we were talking about that earlier with another speaker, this can add a tremendous amount more profit. There's a great deal of money to be made in the craft beer space, as he mentioned, is also you go from a well drink to a premium call brand. If you're in the hard liquor business, we know that it costs more, but there's greater profit, right? In the protein space, I've got salmon on the left, red meat in the middle, and chicken on the right. These are old numbers. It's just what they were at the time. But you've got a farm-raised salmon, and then you can upgrade to a sustainably raised, then a wild-caught's the most expensive. You can menu that. You can put that out there with a higher price and make more per plate. You take that money home to the bank. The Prime Choice Select Beef is an easy understood one. Prime beef is going to cost you a lot more, but you're going to make more on a per plate basis, right? And it's the same thing now in chicken. You've got conventional chicken, you've got no antibiotics, you got organic, you got 3 tiers of value, and it's a little bit easier to think about that. Beef even has the certified Angus beef to put on top of it, another little mini upgrade on there that you see a lot on the menu, right? If I go to Data Essentials, it's another big data provider, and they scan 70,000 menus, and they are looking at claims versus no claims in this space for chicken, specifically organic. I took the most expensive one out there. I could do the same chart. It would be a little bit less profit for no antibiotics ever, of course. And I have that data if somebody wanted to call me and I can get it to you. But you got about $7.50 more ring on an organic chicken entree versus a conventional no-claim entree, right? And consumers are willing to pay more. 80% of consumers say they're willing to pay more for organic chicken. If you do the math on this and just say it was a 5-ounce entree and it costs an extra $1.18, the end of the day, you're making an extra $6.33 is what you're actually taking home. If you blow that out, yes, $6.33 times our 30 orders a day, 7 days a week, $70,000 sounds pretty good. But everybody in this room would say, I can't change my whole menu to organic. Ain't no way my whole consumer base is going to pay me for that. How would I do that? And this is the big stumbling thing I think that we experienced at several entities, not just Chick-fil-A, but we had it at Subway, we've had it at a number of other smaller chains, is how do you, I believe in it, but how do I change this? How do I get it into my store and be able to have people pay for it? The most simplistic one is using the LTO space. If you were to imagine coming into your store and there's a chalkboard menu, and those are our organic specials of the day. I've got an appetizer, I got a soup, I got a salad, I got a sandwich, maybe an entree. You put it all out there, and anytime somebody upgrades from your conventional menu, they're going to be buying a premium item with premium profit built in because of all the great, wonderful ingredients that we install into this space. You can have it on a printed sheet and put it down. These are our organic specials of the day. Does it make anybody look any different at the quality of the proteins that remain on your menu that are not organic? You have great ingredients today. We still have the same great ingredients that we've had before, but we had some requests for organic, so we're putting a special menu out there, but the rest of our menu remains unchanged. You have a way to speak about this where you can connect those dots so your menu is made to feel safe in the eyes of your customers. I'm going to go further in this. These are some no antibiotics ever examples. So Chipotle went what we call all in. The entire menu, all proteins were no antibiotics ever, all veggie fed, and there was just no exception. If you look at the price point on those, they're about $2 more per meal than a like deal at, say, Moe's Southwest Grill. So there's quite a bit more dollars in there when it really might take only a few more cents to make that happen. So they're making a lot more money on a ring basis, but they have all that sexy energy of sustainability and the quality ingredients that we're buying and all the stuff that they've done over time. They've stumbled on food safety. That's because of their local procurement issues, but the concept and how we're delivering the claims is what I wanted to focus on here. Panera Bread is now an all-in guy, but Panera Bread started their journey in 2005. They had a sub-menu. You remember what it was called? Signature salads and sandwiches. So the signature salads and sandwiches was no antibiotics ever, all veggie-fed meat, chicken and turkey. And they had special ingredients and special builds, and those items were more expensive, but the cost of that meat was not dramatically more expensive. They were making more money on any one of those items on there, and then they just converted the entire menu in the last year or so. We blindly went to Facebook, went to Panera and said, hey, what if I wanted to upgrade an item that was over on this side of the menu from the signature salads and sandwiches menu? We would charge you $1.95 for that. So can you do that? Do you have the capacity to do something like that? There's a great story we had. We sold a pizza guy in St. Louis. He was afraid to change the menu pricing for all of his chicken items. He had salads and sandwiches and, of course, chicken pizza. And what he did was, he said, I'm going to test it. I'm going to put it on the menu, and I'm going to say for $2.95, I'll replace your chicken with no antibiotics ever, all veggie-fed chicken. And he told us 30% of the consumers are making the upgrade themselves. That's a lot of money for something that might cost you a couple dimes. So it's real profit potential for these claims. The stories are not just Chipotle and Panera. There's a lot of folks out there. And if you look, though, at the Panera menu, it's all layered in. They speak about it, raised without, and that's their terminology. We advise them against it, but it opens up their purchasing numbers. And so when you look at this, raised without appears all over their menu. Cozy did something different. They have premium claims living on the menu with a more conventional value meat item also. It's anarchy, I tell you. But look at the price point difference. There's $9 on the left and just about $6 on the right. And when you go through there, the brown colors are where there's conventional proteins, and the purple are the premium items. We serve naturally raised, no antibiotics added chicken. I'm going to go to Potbelly. Potbelly did it a little bit different, but you got similar things. You got $8.85 for a premium sandwich, and the value item was $6.50. They put the premium attributes on the salads. It's unbreaded chicken. They went and kind of did if you want better for you space, you're probably going to eat a salad, and they kind of built it in that capacity. So it's kind of interesting the way that you can connect to these. But in closing, I think you have to put it on the menu. You have to make it known that you have quality ingredients. Not all of the ingredients have to be the same. There are models that you can utilize to find a path to profit and claims, but you don't have to change a whole menu. But if you are looking for that story, if you're looking for that answer, if you had requests for these items, and today you don't have an answer, I hope maybe you've seen some options on how you might do that. But this marketing support, I have off-the-shelf stuff. I've got buttons and things, and it may not apply for everybody in here. I've got server training cards for fine dining. I've got deli clings for different market spaces. But so does Certified Angus Beef. So does the Marine Sustainability Group. So does the Nordic salmon. So the people that are in that space have that, and you can take a few minutes and work with your suppliers and create a better story for the back of your menu, create a better story for the website, create a better story that includes that animal care connection, and you can monetize this. Because what happens is you end up with brand advocates. You end up with people that love your place because they've got organic, they've got the things that I'm looking for, and you still might have another complete portion of the menu that never change price. The list of companies that are doing those dual menus, by the way, bunches of them. I mean, it's just really interesting, the creativity to get this on the menu in some way, shape, or form. So that is the path to profit on claims, and I would take any questions that you folks have right now, or any answers. Or some more of that cake. Anyone?
I noticed a lot of all those menus had to do with chicken. Is there the same kind of availability for turkey? Because I noticed all the turkey was not.
Well, that was just those menus. We raise animals that are non-antibiotic sever. I'm not the only guy that does that, but there is turkey availability. Organic turkey is harder to find. They live a lot longer, and when you use more expensive grain, and let's say they live 3 times as long as a chicken does, that's a lot of extra cost. So that's probably why you're not going to see too many organic turkeys, but they're out there. You'll see them at Whole Foods and stuff at Thanksgiving. But I think that you could, we have, Perdue turkey has some traditional ingredients in it. It's not clean label, but we also have our Harvest Land that has clean label, and there's about 12 items or so that are in that space. But we're not the only guy. It's out there in turkey. And we bought Nyman Ranch as an example. We have Coleman. Those are 2 pork entities that have those claims on them as well. And then I worked for Meyer Natural Angus Beef and some other premium beef. I know they've got some here at Benny Keith. So those are all, you can do a portfolio of protein today. It was not as easy just 5 years ago. But definitely almost unheard of being able to do that 8 years ago. We have one up here, Chris.
So I know that you're not specifically an operator, but out of any companies that you've worked with to help transition to either bringing in, like you said, the blended menu or switching over, how do you think it's feasible to really carry 2 chickens in your system when, like, we're a smallish company, and trying to keep simplicity for the young workforce that we have? So it seems like it would be a complication.
I would just buy a different form. That's what happened in that pizza place. They have a very different form of chicken. So their conventional chicken was, let's just say it was a random breast fillet. But if you got to the premium, it was maybe a sized fillet that was very different. I'm not sure he might have been buying fully cooked as well. Might have fully cooked strips on that one. So there's a way in which you can say, I'm going to end up with 2 SKUs, but they're very different. I mean, Subway does this today, by the way. Subway's in that space, and I would say they have the same issue. They have a very different looking chicken for the no antibiotics ever. It's the shred. Probably haven't been to Subway in a while, but it's the shred. And then they have a chicken strip and a chicken patty, chicken breast patty. Those are the conventional items that remain on the menu. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? More
she
cake?
She asks the best questions.
She does. She's very inquisitive. Who is this lady? She's doing a good job.
Anything else? Mike Corey?
All right, guys.
I knew you'd have one.
We've been hearing about plant-based protein.
Yes, sir.
What can you tell us about that and Incredible Burger and these things that are coming out that are plant-based versus farm-raised?
Yeah, I think, the plant-based has got a tremendous energy around it. We're interested in that. We actually, I didn't give you the full Perdue story. I know it probably seemed like we had a lot of energy around the different claims that we provide, but it's like categorical. I have a agribusiness side that buys the grain. We're the only poultry company that has that. We have people that source grain, corn and soybeans from family farmers around the country and the globe. And so we love plant-based protein because we think it's something that would really connect well to us. And I think we just communicated recently that we're interested in looking at a potential acquisition in that space. But there's definite energy around it. I think the quality of soy-based products has improved dramatically over the last several years. And it's got some energy to it. I think it's a great portfolio. Definitely it kind of competes for a space in general protein, but it's still relatively small. So I don't necessarily feel it as much. But from an operator standpoint, understanding that space, I would say it's definitely something that you would want to consider. It's the veto vote. It's there's just too many folks that are making those choices today not to consider it. Okay.
The phenomenon, I hear woody breast, is that specifically just for commercial raised? If you go to NAE or organic, does that go away?
It's an interesting question, Mike Hamblin. I appreciate that. And by the way, you look great today. Nobody's else told you that. The woody breast, have you experienced any quality issues on your chicken breast? If you're buying larger chicken breasts, you'll get this thick, more unnatural bite to it, and they really don't have a great solution to it. All they really know is the bigger the chicken, the more of an issue it is. It can even be visible. You can see certain white striations on the breast. It would be a visible indicator, but you can hold up a raw chicken breast and it almost stands straight up. One of the large QSRs was having such a problem with complaints that they made a spec change to reduce the size of the bird to reduce the number of complaints. In this space, we actually raise the chickens smaller. We're kind of a small bird organization for food service. That's what it used to be. Looking around the room, there's a lot of younger folks in here than me. But when I first got into food service, smaller chickens was what we used. You can cut a chicken and eat a half a chicken as a portion for dinner. So that's my organic chicken size. I do have some larger sizes for different products. And then I do the same thing on my no antibiotics ever space. So the smaller it is, it reduces it dramatically. What we do know is the more active the chicken, the less the issue is. Animal care is a potential solution for some of those weird issues of those birds that get so big and they just plop down. And that's why our energy towards animal care is important, I think, to this audience, because it has a product quality feature to it. So, we're doing a lot, I think, as an industry to try to figure out what the issue is. Slow growth chickens, smaller chickens, there's a number of ways to resolve that. Slow growth chickens are so slow, they're almost going to be the cost of organic. So I don't know if that's the long-term solution. If you raise chickens smaller, their growth rate is slower. They only get fast growth rates at the end of their life cycle. So that's just another interesting feature. But you can raise slow growth as a regular breed of chicken. So there's a number of ways to resolve it. But my recommendation would be smaller chicken, smaller chicken, and then you'll get better end product if you're having problems with quality. Anything else? There's one over here, Chris. Yeah, I think it's a fact. Today in food service, if you look at NPD Supply Track, we're in very small penetration in food service. Most really powerful chicken innovation, even like chicken wings, well, that was food service and it made its way to retail and club stores. This space of premium attributes was definitely retail first, and then it's sliding into food service right now. So it's about 30% of no antibiotics ever or better is what the market is in retail today. So it's pretty well penetrated. It's not, people think it's a niche. In retail, it's not a niche. In food service, it's growing at such a powerful rate because the big chain guys, they're not in those NPD Supply Track numbers. So you're missing Subway, you're missing Chick-fil-A, and some of the other big guys, Panera, they're not in those numbers because they're excluded from NPD Supply Track, which is the distributor's number. It's like the IRI of food service. It's just not 100% of distributors participating. But so in that space, there's a solid penetration in retail, and it's still relatively petite in general food service distribution in this room, and the general customers and food service distributor spaces. Anything else?
So, what, in your opinion, what do you think is going to happen when Chick-fil-A goes, widespread, 100% no antibiotic free?
Yeah, they're almost there, and they just don't want to advertise it until. I think it's just going to put another stick of dynamite under the deal and blow it up again. It's just going to push everything faster towards more claims on the menu. I think it's going to keep elevating that energy. I have slides. I just didn't have time today to show them, but we used to map the path of all the chains that were moving towards that. And you saw the grading sheet, right? But there's a bunch of people who were watching because they're making claims on antibiotics. Some were non-claims, some were not transparent. But it was great, the movement and the commitment to those kind of raising practices and quality of ingredients. But when Chick-fil-A went, it was a seismic shock. And when they finally finish and do the big power communication, it'll be just another seismic shock, and it'll send waves, and then there'll be a lot more people joining the movement. Anything else? Yeah. It happened on turkey most recently. It was a couple years ago with Genio. Yeah, there's biosecurity measures. Like when you walk into a chicken house, you are to put your feet in um, uh, cleansing items, and you have to wear smocks and all these things to protect those chickens. You can't just be running from farm to farm, and because it's really the wild birds are carrying that, and through the mess they're making on their pathways through migration, that does happen. We don't worry about it per se. We have plans around it. We have plant redundancies. We have, the different flyways. We have plants across different flyways, but we do take a tremendous number of precautions. And when there's a failure, usually it's because somebody didn't take the right precaution, and we had a cross-pollination of that. If there was any identification, the one thing about organic is if there was something of that caliber or an extreme cold, we would be able to take care of those chickens. We might shut the door. It just have to happen, just to protect them. That's our veterinarians. We have live animal team, and that's a veterinarian who runs that. He takes a Hippocratic oath, just like a doctor does for human beings. So they have to do what they have to do to take care of those chickens, and if that means shutting that door, they're going to shut that door. Because it doesn't take that long for the migration to end, and then you're back with the doors open again. Anything else? Good questions. All right, well, thank you, everybody.